how someone with these issues can, slip through the cracks when everyone knows that you have them, it's beyond me.
Welcome back. We're investigating a disturbing and deadly issue of multiple suicides at the Nassau County Jail. Now, you just heard from the brother of a Long Island man, an Iraq War veteran who committed suicide inside the Nassau County Jail just 24 hours into his incarceration. His family, like the four others before him, they want answers. Now, how could it be that a soldier survives a tour of duty in Iraq but doesn't survive 24 hours in the Nassau County Jail? Bart Ryan's suicide, it's in the beginning stages of an investigation, a process that can take up to 13 months. Bart Ryan's death, it was the 5th suicide in that jail in just 24 months. The 4th suicide, this man, 44-year-old Darrell Woody. According to the State Commission of Correction, which oversees and investigates all county jails in New York, Darrell Woody died on January 3rd, 2011 from a suicidal hanging. The report stated, quote, Woody's death may have been prevented. It went on to blame what the state called grossly inadequate psychiatric care. Now, what's even more disturbing are the details in that report. Findings, they tell a gruesome story of a man with a history of mental illness. So desperate for his psychiatric medication was he that he ripped a metal sprinkler off the wall in his jail cell and stabbed himself in the face and neck, all in an attempt to get his medication. Medication he never received. He later hung himself. Now, our reporter Kim Lengel, she sat down with Woody's family, and she's here now to tell us much more about that visit. Kim?
That's right, Rich. We found out that Darrell Woody was booked at the Nassau County Jail on Christmas Day 2010 after pleading not guilty to domestic violence. The Woody family and their attorney say that Darrell was innocent, and they blame Nassau County for 2 critical mistakes which they say led to their brother's death. One, that Darrell wasn't properly screened medically and mentally during booking, and 2, that he never received the proper medications. Darrell Woody was the 4th death in a string of 5 suicides, and because of that, the Woody family says it's time to make the county pay for its mistakes.
Should never happen to the first person. They should have never let the first person die. I mean, that tells you everything. You got 3 people before him. Then you got 1 after him. If something was done, you would have none of these people dead.
Sonata Woody and her siblings live in Roosevelt, Long Island. They're still grieving the loss of their brother Darrell.
You know, when you look around, he's missed. He's very missed. Look at the smile. Look at the smile. You can't see that no more.
The family says it's been a long and painful year dealing with Darrell's death. Questions still remain as to how and why Darrell committed suicide in the Nassau County Jail.
I think these people need to be exposed, but I don't feel my little brother needed to die if they was doing their job.
What's already been exposed are the graphic details surrounding Darrell Woody's suicide. According to a report published by the New York State Commission of Correction, the first paragraph of the findings says it all, that Woody's death may have been prevented. Listed in the report is what the state calls critical information that wasn't referenced in Woody's intake screening. Critical information like the fact that he told arresting officers that he attempted suicide earlier that day by banging his head into a wall.
My thing was always that they didn't care. Nobody wasn't watching them.
The report also details Woody's first suicide attempt despite the fact that he was kept under constant supervision. It reads, in the early morning hours of December 27, 2010, Woody stepped up onto his bunk and began pulling a piece of metal off a smoke detector cover. Woody stripped naked from his suicide prevention gown and began stabbing himself in the neck, wrists, and face. Corrections officers arrived on the scene and shot 3 one-second bursts of pepper spray into Woody's face. It takes 3 corrections officers and a sergeant to take control of Woody. They handcuff him and bring him to a shower for decontamination. As he's being led from the jail cell, the state report quotes Darrell Woody as saying, I told them when I came in I needed my medication and they didn't give it to me. I did this to get my meds. I'm sorry, but I need them. 10 days later, Woody hanged himself with a bed sheet, anchored to medical equipment, while on suicide watch at the now-defunct prison ward in the Nassau University Medical Center.
When he tried to commit suicide initially in the correctional center, he said, I did this because I just wanted my meds. It's clear that when he was transferred over to the hospital, the state commission report clearly sets forth that he was treated improperly and the doctors committed gross negligence in connection with the care he received.
Robert Grunfast is the Woody's family attorney. They're filing a wrongful death claim naming the county, the correctional center, every correctional officer that was on duty at the time of Daryl's admittance, and every doctor that was linked to his care.
The lawsuit is twofold. The lawsuit brought on Daryl's behalf by his family to, one, try and obtain compensatory damages for the pain and suffering Daryl went through, and two, to try and change the system once and for all. You know, I really think the system is not going to change unless they really get a wake-up call.
It's never going to be nothing done because the county hides everything. Everything is hidden. It'll probably happen again to somebody else before something is done.
The family's wrongful death lawsuit is seeking $140 million in damages. Rich?
You know, Kim, last night we heard of another family's tragedy of a loss of a loved one, and now tonight we hear from the Woody family. If it was just the Woody family, it would be bad enough, but as you've shown in the reporting, this was the fourth case of what would become 5 cases with a lot of parallels, all happening within 2 years. What I don't understand is it doesn't seem that any of the protocols were changed at this jail after time after time after time. The same kind of tragedies were happening behind their walls.
You're absolutely right. And when you read the 4 reports, you see patterns. You see that corrections officers were using outdated forms. When the inmates came in, they weren't screening them properly for suicide attempts, for their health care, for their mental health care. And they were using medical terms that didn't exist. And so you see with Daryl Woody, he was supposed to have been placed under constant supervision, but yet that's when his first suicide attempt happened. And when the state wrote their report, they made recommendations to the sheriff. And when you ask the state if the sheriff has followed any of those recommendations, the state refuses to answer.
Unbelievable. Give a quick idea of what's coming up tomorrow.
So tomorrow we're going to see who points blame at whom. We're going to hear from the Corrections Officers Union, and we're going to hear from a nurse who says she was inside that jail and she quit under pressure because they were forcing her not to give proper health care to these inmates.
A lot of finger pointing we will hear. Thank you.